Thom Hartmann here with the best of the rest of labor and economic news. You need to know this. A new poll shows that 2/3 of all Americans would struggle to cover a $1,000 crisis. According to this poll by the NORC Center for Public Affairs Research, that type of crisis spans all incomes. 3/4 of people in households making less than $50,000 a year and 2/3 of those making between $50,000 and $100,000 a year would have trouble coming up with $1,000 to cover an unexpected bill. Even for the country's wealthiest 20%, households making over $100,000 a year, 38% say they would have to at least some difficulty coming up with $1,000. William R. Emmons, a senior economic advisor at the Center for Household Financial Stability at the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, said, quote, "Many families are still struggling with debt from the housing bubble and borrowing boom, and the recent economic stresses make it much more likely families are going to be fighting basic financial issues," end quote. The World Trade Organization is harming consumers. Here's how. Country of origin labeling law, a COOL law, it's called COOL, was shot down by the WTO because they say COOL is a non-tariff barrier to free trade, and it treats Canadian and Mexican products unfairly. Subsequently, due to the WTO ruling, our U.S. cattle producers are now forced to pay $3.6 billion in retaliatory tariffs by Mexico and Canada unless COOL is repealed. The COOL laws protect Americans by letting us know where the meat was born, raised, and slaughtered. If COOL isn't repealed, not only are our cattle producers facing major fines, but our consumers won't know where the meat they're buying is coming from. Wow. Do we seriously need a group of secret corporate folks out there telling us what to do or what not to do? In a poll conducted by Consumer Reports National Research Center, the results showed 93% of American consumers want to have COOL laws in place. But the World Trade Organization should not be telling us what to do. Does the planet need a global Marshall Plan for joblessness? According to a recent ILO study, global unemployment is expected to overtake 200 million people for the first time on record by the end of 2017. Mainstream economic theory prefers to call levels of unemployment natural and not responsive to policy remedies. They largely ignore the harsh human, environmental, and economic costs of unemployment. Research exposes 1 in 5 suicides is related to unemployment. The intense negative impact of unemployment on individuals' mental and physical health is well established and well reported. Not having a job has been found to have deep scarring effects on life satisfaction. Creating a global Marshall Plan for the unemployed would have to address not only a safety net, but the global financial institutions as well. The task would be huge. However, the U.S. could lead the way by re-envisioning the New Deal model for today's time. If we did that, the rest of the world would surely follow. Senator Al Franken will oppose the TPP. In the coming months, Franken said, Congress will likely face a vote on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a massive trade deal covering 12 countries and 40% of global trade. Franken said, quote, "It's the largest trade deal the United States has ever negotiated and would have an enormous effect on workers in every corner of our country. Things like basic protection for workers, strong rules against currency manipulation, and a fair process through which we can hold other governments accountable for unfair trade. I laid out these principles because I know how unfair trade practices can negatively affect many of our industries, including the iron and steel industry that is so crucial to the well-being of the range. TPP agreements signed earlier this year falls woefully short of those standards. I hope others in Congress will join me in voting against this deal," end of quote from Al Franken. Los Angeles is considering taxing millionaires to help homeless people. The money would help pay for housing and other services for homeless people. Los Angeles County is considering taxing the millionaires to help fund efforts to tackle homelessness, according to the LA Times. In a board meeting of the LA County supervisors on Tuesday, that group voted to pursue state legislation that would impose a tax on personal income over $1 million a year. Money raised would help pay for housing and other services for homeless people. Looks like Robin Hood has shown up in LA. Recent poll shows 76% of likely voters are strongly supportive of the idea, so it may have a shot at success. Big oil could have put a dent in CO2 emissions in 1970, but did nothing. According to new documents from the Center for International Environmental Law, the fossil fuel industry chose to prioritize profits over the planet. The new document shows oil companies chose to invest in climate denying instead of on technologies to reduce their emissions. Between the 1950s and the 1970s, the industry also financed studies into how petroleum products could be used to control the climate. The research included burning oil to clear areas of fog and smog, and constructing massive artificial heat mountains out of asphalt to increase rainfall. As early as the 1980s, oil companies were beginning to invest in taller oil rigs that could withstand rising sea levels. Tom Sanzillo, finance director at the Cleveland-based Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, told Vice that there is clear potential, perhaps even a likelihood, that these documents will result in litigation against the oil companies. Sanzillo said, quote, "This looks like it's pretty serious, and it just seems to get worse," end quote. That's the way it is for the week of May 23rd, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann on Labor and Economic News.